Nico, I have 3:30 on the clock. Are we good to start?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we're good to go.
All right, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Development Permit Panel meeting of Wednesday, April 30th. On the panel today, we have myself, the Wayne Craig, General Manager of Planning and Development, Lloyd B., Acting General Manager of Engineering and Public Works, and Milton Chan, Director of Engineering. In addition to the panel, we have staff from the Development Applications Division here to help us today. Josh Reese, Director of Development, and Alex Costin, Planner. The panel deals with items related to form and character, things such as landscaping, architecture, exterior lighting, pedestrian access, vehicle access. The panel does not deal with items of land use or density, as those are set through the zoning approval process, which is outside the purview of the panel. In terms of the order of business today, we have a few administrative items to deal with before we get to the agenda. There are 2 items on the agenda. When those items are considered, the order of business will be a presentation from the applicant, staff comments regarding the application, questions from the panel members. There will then be an opportunity for any members of the public who wish to provide comments on these applications to do so. We will read any public correspondence received into the record. There will then be an opportunity for panel deliberation. Items that are supported by the panel will be advanced to City Council for their consideration once conditions are fulfilled. What is of note is that there is no opportunity to delegate on these matters should they proceed to Council. Today is the opportunity for any members of the public to make their views on these applications known. With that, I'll turn our attention to today's agenda. The first item on the agenda is a motion to adopt the minutes of the Development Permit Panel meeting held on April 16th of 2025. Could I have a mover of the motion?
Moved.
Lloyd, are you prepared to second that motion? All right, all those in favor of adoption of those minutes? Thank you, those minutes are adopted. That brings us to the first item on the agenda. I will introduce the item and then there'll be an opportunity for the applicant to share their screen and provide a presentation. The first item on the agenda is Development Permit 24-04-0880. The applicant is Dream Casa Development. The property location is 2051 Anson Avenue. The recommendation in the staff report is that a development permit be issued, which would permit the construction of a rear yard infill building at 2051 Anson Avenue on a site zone small-scale multi-unit housing, RSM/L, and to vary the provisions of the zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum interior side yard setback along the side lot line from 4 meters to 1.5 meters for the front principal building. Gurjeet, are you...
You guys can hear me? We're all good?
Yep. If you could share your screen, go ahead.
Yep. Perfect. So first, I just want to say hi to DP panel members, city staff, and all the neighbors for joining in today. I'm going to be the builder for this project here at 2051 Anson Avenue. We are seeking a variance for minimum interior side yard requirements along one side lot lines from 4 meters to 1.5. Our main goal today is to pretty much show our neighbors our development will not be causing any privacy, peace, or unreasonable disturbance to all surrounding units in the area. So I'm going to be just going over 4 things here today on my meeting here today. So I'm going to first start off with my site plan, and we'll go with landscape plan, and I'll show you guys the drawings of the main house and the laneway house. So first, here is our site plan here. We're going to start from back to front. As we can see from the back here, we've actually taken a lot of design ideas into consideration, and we've been working with City of Richmond since July 2024 to find a site plan that is correctly suitable for this job. So our main so what we've done here is, as you can see, if we drive along the lane, our goal was to make sure any of our neighbors and no one's impacted when we're driving by from the back lane. So what we've done here is we've actually made a site plan, and we made an entry porch to show our entry of the house, to make it look nice and to make it look valid. We've also shared a lot of space between the neighbors and our yard. Like, we have a lot of shared space in these areas right here. If any of the residents want to go to their back and do anything, they have more than enough space to go to the back, and like I said, they won't be disturbing any neighbors. We put a space for all their garbage containers, and we do have lots of parking on the site plan. As we can see, I know I drive by Anson Avenue a lot, and I see a lot of people parking at the front of the avenue, but we actually have lots of parking in the back here, 2 in the house, and then 1 on the side here for any future tenants or any of the residents. We also try to make the area in the back look very appealing and clean for the future when the development's done. I know sometimes I drive by in the alley, and obviously not all the structures are new, and sometimes I see weeds and grass, and it's just not a good site to look at. So we're trying to make sure when we're actually driving by back there that it actually looks clean to the community, and it's not affecting anyone. Number 2, I'm going to go by a landscaping plan first, just so we can finish off all the site plans. So our site plan here is just showing a bunch of trees and some things we'll be planting just to make it ethically look nice when, like I said, people are driving by, and just making the Burkesville neighborhood look nice. So in the front, we're adding some western red cedar trees. We have some Fort Gila garden species, Japanese maples, and some more other different species, because I'm not an arborist, so I'm not fully aware of these species, but we went through all the Richmond, whatever the bylaws are exactly of what plants and trees were allowed. So we just went through all of them and inputted them to our landscape plan here. Is there any questions from the DP panel boards, or do I just continue on with the presentation?
Just continue with your presentation. We'll wait till you're done, and then we'll ask any questions at that time.
Okay. So here's the picture. Here's a rendering or front elevation of the main house. Here's some materials that we're going to be using. Like I said, we've been talking to City of Richmond since July last year of exactly what materials to use in this area and to make the building scheme look good for the future and now. Hardy boards, channels, shingles, stone. And here's a quick rendering that we have here for how the front of the house is going to be looking like. Here are just the main floor plans. I'm not sure if anyone's much interested in these because it's just the main house. We'll go to the second dwelling drawings. That's mostly what most people are going to be concerned about. So when you're coming back from the back alley, this is how the second dwelling is going to look. It's going to pretty much look like a super clean looking second dwelling in the back with the double garage. And then we have our main floor here with the living room, kitchen, and then upstairs we have our 2 bedrooms. We got our laundry and a walk-in closet with some washrooms there. we also made sure that none of our, or what do you call it? We made sure our east and west don't have windows, just so we're not looking at the neighbors' yards, and we have windows in the front and back for security. We're also going to be putting a lot of security cameras in the area. I know there's a neighbor watch, so we're going to be having cameras in the back alley, in the front alley, and making sure everything's secured. Yeah, like I said, our goals here are just to show the audience here that we're not impacting the neighbors in any way. And yeah, if any questions, just let me know. Oh, I can't hear you, Wayne. Sorry.
Sorry. If that concludes your presentation, you can stop sharing screen. If there is a need for you to put the drawings back up, we will ask you to do so.
Okay.
Josh, any staff comments on the application?
Yes, a couple of comments, if I may, Mr. Chair. In accordance with provincial legislation, the subject property was rezoned in June of 2024, along with other properties in Burkeville and across the city, to permit up to 4 units on the lot. The proposed rear yard infill development is consistent with the RSM zoning applicable to this property. As part of the development, registration of an aircraft noise covenant on title is required in order to ensure that aircraft noise mitigation measures are incorporated into the building design. As noted by the chair, a variance is proposed to one of the interior side yard setbacks from 4 meters to 1.5 meters. Staff have supported this variance on the basis that other properties within Burkeville are not required to provide this variance, as they are less than 15 meters in width. So the proposed variance is consistent with what would be required on other sites within the area, as the applicant has also agreed to provide a 2-bedroom secondary suite in the principal building, being, as I said, a 2-bedroom secondary suite. The principal dwelling does not, in the front yard, does not form part of the development permit itself, aside from the proposed side yard setback variance.
All right, thank you, Josh. Milton, Lloyd, any questions for the applicant or staff?
I got a couple questions. I guess first for the applicant, just with lighting, is all the lighting going to be pointing downwards so that there won't be light trespass into the other properties?
Oh yeah, 100%. So my electricians, before when we do rough-in, we're gonna be making sure all our rough-in lighting is going towards our way. There's also many different lights in the industry now, so we're gonna be playing around, making sure the correct light fits that spot. And like I said, our whole goal here is not to affect any neighbors and any city property or any of that stuff. So yeah, 100%. All that stuff will be taken into consideration when rough-ins are happening.
Okay. And then just one question for Mr. Reese, just about the setback variance. So this one, as I understand, is just slightly wider. That triggers the setback requirement from 1.5 to 4 meters. So then, really, this is the 1.5 meters is consistent with pretty much the rest of Anson Avenue.
As per the RSM zoning, the minimum side yard setback for a property that is less than 15 meters is 1.2 meters on both sides. In this instance, because the property is 15.28 meters approximately, the requirement is for one of those side yards to be 4 meters in width. The applicant in this instance is proposing to vary that to 1.5.
Okay, thanks. No other questions from me?
Lloyd, any questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Wayne, I don't have any questions today.
Okay. I do have a couple myself. In terms of the landscape plan, I'm wondering if you could speak to the ground treatment or the pavement treatment, which is intended for the various walkways as well as the surface parking lot or the surface parking space.
Right here?
Yeah, and the various walkways. So the walkway from the street and then the walkways between the buildings. What sort of pavement material is being proposed?
We'll most likely be doing concrete. Yeah, that's what we have proposed, concrete.
And perhaps this next question is for staff. In terms of the landscaping material provided, that is consistent with the city's planting guidelines for native species. Is that correct, Alex or Josh?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
All right.
We can also use pavement stones because it's not too much space back there and in the front, if you guys would like, because that's something that's modern. I'm not sure what the board panel thinks, but we can do concrete or pavement stones just to make it look nice. Yeah.
Well, I would suggest that from a permeability perspective, pavers do provide infiltration benefits that go a long way to meeting the city's sustainability goals.
Pavers. We love pavers and we don't mind using them at all, especially because I know how the groundwater works in Richmond.
All right. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Rustico, do we have any members of the public in the council chambers that wish to provide some comments on this application?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do have members of the public wanting to ask questions and express their concerns on this project.
Okay, if you could ask them to come forward one at a time, introduce themselves, provide their name, address for the record, and then any comments they may have. In terms of questions, we'll try and gather those questions and then get answers either from staff or the applicant. So go ahead.
All right, my name is Richard Mancourt, and I live in Burkeville. My question or my comment is towards the development permit panel. I would ask that you reject the reduction of this interior side lot lines, as it probably will affect future buildings. It's never been allowed before, and it's for other purposes in the future. You will take a past practice approach to new buildings that are being built, and the reduction will keep continuing on and on and on, and it will eventually lead to issues with crowding and overcrowding in the Burkeville area. One of the nice things about Burkeville is that it is very open space. And for the amount of space that is being acquired, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it warrants a change in the zoning bylaw, 8500, to reduce the interior side yard. I think that there's ample room for them to still build the building without that extra 2.5 meters. And I think a lot of my neighbors have the same opinion. I know that several of them have shown interest and were unable to attend today. And I thought, well, I will come and ask the permit panel, development permit panel, to not provide a change to the bylaw. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity. My name's Lori. I live in Burkeville. I have a couple of questions. A few are clarification. It was difficult to see the details on that drawing. That's why we were all up at the screen. So I just want to confirm the coach house, the proposed coach house in the back, is 2 bedrooms. Is that correct?
Lori, if I may, maybe we could get, Gurjeet, please don't share your screen at this time.
Oh, sorry. Let me just...
I just wanted to confirm some details.
It can be 2 bedrooms, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry, I build a lot of houses. I can't remember, but yeah, two bedrooms. I just double checked that.
Lori, if you could maybe get all your questions out, we'll then get you answers to all the
Sounds
questions
good.
at the same time. So coach house, number of bedrooms.
Yep, and same thing with the home. I wasn't able to kind of see how big it was.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm asking those questions is because some of the concerns we have is with parking. So I noted that the proposed building had spots for 3, but if you build a house with potentially 8 bedrooms and multifamilies, you've got a lot more than 3 cars. And I don't know about you, but a lot of garages don't have cars in them. So the parking.
So yeah, the homeowners actually have been living in this area.
Gurjeet, if you could please wait until you're asked to provide comment.
My bad, no worries. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Lori.
Okay, thanks. I also wanted to get some clarification on the RSM zoning. I don't know who it was who said this, but Burkeville was rezoned to be a 4-unit per lot last year. So I need clarification on that. I don't feel like I knew that that happened. And then I guess kind of as a follow-up to what my neighbor Richard said was, if we make a decision to approve a variance like this, will this have a precedence for future building? That's a significant concern, and that's why we're here today. We do not want that. So again, I also support my neighbor who has said that we would prefer that you do not approve the reduction from 4 meters to 1.5. So a couple of statements and a few questions, so thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Maybe I'll get some of these questions I will direct to the applicant, others I'll direct to staff. So Gurjeet, in terms of the coach house, I think you've confirmed it's a 2-bedroom coach house. In terms of the principal dwelling, there is a secondary suite and a unit. If you could advise how many bedrooms within each.
Yeah, the secondary suite has 2 bedrooms. And the main house has 1, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms and a living and a family room, dining room. Yeah.
Thank you. Josh, if I could ask you to comment on the remaining questions. So in terms of parking, there are 3 parking stalls proposed. If you could comment on whether that meets the zoning requirement. If you could also comment on the provincial legislation that required the city to rezone 27,000 lots throughout the city to allow for multi-unit development. And then I'll also ask you to comment on the context and the variance itself as it relates to the remainder of the lots on Anson. So, Josh?
Certainly. With respect to parking on site, the proposed parking stalls does comply with the city's required parking as per the RSM zoning bylaw, which requires 0.5 stalls per unit. This development is proposing 3 units. A total of 3 parking spaces is compliant with that zoning bylaw requirement. The requirement is 1 stall per unit. There are 3 units that are provided. So the parking is consistent with the RSM zoning. In December of 2023, the province introduced Bill 44, which required municipalities by June 30th of 2024 to rezone existing single-family lots to provide for up to 3, 4, or 6 units on each lot, depending on the lot size. For lots that are greater than 280 square meters, such as many of those in the Burkeville community, the city was required to introduce zoning in order to ensure that up to 4 units could be constructed on any given lot. As Mr. Craig had indicated, that provincial policy and regulation meant the city was required to rezone approximately 27,000 properties across the entire city. That new RSM zoning took effect in June of 2024. The proposal, including the rear yard infill development, is consistent with and complies with the RSM zone. With respect to the variance as proposed, the variance side yard setbacks as per the RSM zoning require that where lots greater than 15 meters in width any development on those lots must include a minimum side yard setback of 1.2 meters on one side and 4 meters on the opposite side. For lots that are less than 15 meters in size, there is no 4-meter requirement. The side yard setback on both lots, both side yards, is 1.2 meters. Majority of the lots within the Burkeville community, and including along Anson, range between 14.68, I believe, and 15.28 meters in width. And so, particularly within this block of Anson on the south side of Anson Road, the other lots in this row are less than 15 meters and would be able to, subject to a building permit, construct a new principal dwelling with 1.2 meter setbacks on either side. So the proposed variance is consistent with what we would anticipate to see through other principal dwellings that could be constructed on lots within the Burkeville community.
All right, and if I'll just comment on the last question myself in terms of variance and precedent setting. Any variance granted by the panel is not precedent setting. Every site is considered on its own merits. Every variance is considered on its own merits. So, Lori, I'm not sure if we've answered all your questions. In terms of the multi-unit zoning, that was imposed across the province by the provincial government at the time.
Thank you. I think the majority have been answered. The reason why I'm kind of confused is because there was a general purposes committee meeting, John Hopkins, Director Policy Planning, sending a letter to the Minister of Transportation that Burkeville is not suitable for inclusion for reasons identified in this report, and requesting that the TOA for Aberdeen Station be adjusted accordingly. I'm curious, I thought that was Bill 44 and that Burkeville was not included in that, in the densification plan.
Yeah, that's actually a different matter. So Bill 44 was the bill that required all municipalities over a certain population to essentially abolish single-family zoning and allow for the multi-units to be constructed on a lot depending on the lot size. Bill 47 in the report that you referred to was there was a further piece of legislation that required municipalities to allow a certain minimum density within 800 meters of a transit station. The report you referred to is the 800 meters as determined by the province was as the crow flies, even though Aberdeen Station is 2+ kilometer walk from Burkeville. It did touch upon 8 lots in Burkeville. If the city followed that piece of legislation, we would be obligated to allow multi-story apartment buildings along the west or the eastern edge of Burkeville. So the city opposed that action by the province, and that was the purpose of that report, was to write the province to say, as much as your intentions may be well intended, they just do not make sense given that the Fraser River separates the Burkeville area from the Aberdeen Station.
Okay, that was Bill 47, not 44.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else like to address the panel?
Yes, Richard Mancourt again. So I'm uncertain as to why the variant would even be applicable for the simple reason that you said that on Anson, most of the houses are 14.8 meters width in the lot size, and they would be allowed to have the 1.2 meter side lot lines. But this lot is not. This lot is 15.2 meters, and so it does not qualify for a change in the variant. And it does not qualify to sidestep the Richmond zoning bylaw 8500 to reduce that minimum interior side yard. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, my name is Victoria and I live in Burkeville on Anson. And I just have a question about how many square feet is the first floor of the laneway? Just noting that it is a 2-bedroom and commonly garages are taken over in later stages, and wondering if that is actually a sufficient amount of space on that bottom floor to have a living room and kitchen for a 2-bedroom place. And then I think what's important to remember is that Burkeville is a little bit different in the sense that there is zero walkability to grocery stores and other amenities. Everyone in Burkeville has cars. There's a lot of cars in Burkeville. When you are going to have 8 bedrooms and 3 residences, a minimum of usually 2 cars per residence, the house probably more. If that continues through Burkeville, there is going to be crazy amounts of cars, and that really deteriorates neighborhood relationships when you can't park near your home. And I think that's the biggest concern that a lot of people have. So the other concern that other neighbors have that I've just got here is the concern about drainage in, Richmond, but Burkeville exceptionally. There's oftentimes homes that have a lake in front of them, and lanes that are flooding homes because a lot of the older homes are lower than the newer homes. So I'm just wondering a little bit what's going to be done, or if there's a percentage of the property that has to be permeable. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for those questions. Josh, I'm going to ask that you and or Alex provide responses to these questions. So the first item is the habitable space of the coach house on the ground floor. If you could also comment on the lot coverage as it relates to permeability.
Yes, I can provide a response there, Mr. Chair. So the main floor of the coach house, for the purpose of the coach house unit, is approximately 230 square feet in area. With respect to building footprint and live landscaping on the property, the maximum percentage of the lot that can be used for non-porous surfaces, including buildings, the maximum coverage for buildings on the lot is 45%. The minimum requirement of live landscaping on the property is 20%, as per the RSM zoning.
And Josh, could you just confirm that this proposal meets those requirements? And if you could also comment on what is required in terms of perimeter drainage as part of any new build.
This project does comply with all the requirements as per the RSM zone, including the building maximum area, non-porous surfaces, and live landscaping requirements. In addition, as part of the building permit application, the applicant will be required to provide perimeter drainage on the property to ensure that stormwater is managed on site.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think the biggest thing then is just to think about the 230 square feet for possibly 4 people renting there, and whether or not that would be sufficient, or whether they're going to take over that 2-car garage. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the panel on this application?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Hi, yes, please. Margaret Robbins. I lived for 17 years right next door to this particular property, so I'm pretty familiar with it. When the applicant said parking, oh yeah, there's going to be lots of parking, I'd like to know exactly how many spots that is. From what I can see there, yes, you have a garage, but again, as a lot of my neighbors say, their garages get filled up with stuff and not filled up with cars. And for 4 suites, I'm thinking we're at least 8 to 10, maybe even more cars. Parking is a problem in Burkeville, whether or not the city likes to think it is or not. It really is a problem, and I think that's absolutely right that it starts neighborhood I'll say all-out wars when people are parking in front of other people's houses. It's just not neighborly, and we really don't want to have that in a friendly neighborhood. It just doesn't work. And I'm wondering which side of the property this variance is for, or whether or not the variance is such so that the house is centered on the lot so that it's equal on each side. I'm wondering about that. I'm also wondering about the drainage. I'm wondering if drain tile is underneath whatever is put on top. And I 100% think that there should not be cement there, that it should be something that is drainable for water, because water is a problem. And both houses on either side of that property are going to be affected in a waterway. We understand that the city has put in this big drainage project for the last at least 8 years. I can tell you that it's finished in front of my house, and when I go outside to get in my car, I step in a big puddle today. I have not, for 32 years, stepped in a puddle trying to get into my car other than the last year, because the project has not been completed and has not been completed properly. So I understand it's still going, but this is a concern to me.
All right, thank you. Josh, if I could just ask you to comment on what the setback would be on each of the side yards of the principal dwelling, and whether that is essentially centering the building on the lot.
I can actually respond to that question. So the variance is being applied to, the orientation is not perfect, but it's being applied to the side of the lot where the uncovered parking stall is provided for the suite. I don't have the directional, but basically, yeah, it's being reduced from 4 meters to 1.5 on that side. The house is centered on the lot, so the setback on either side of the main dwelling is 1.5 meters.
Thank you, Alex. Gurjeet, if you could stop trying to share your screen. Rustico, is there anyone else that wishes to address the panel?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Hi, Andy Baxter, live on Wellington in Burkeville. As we've all said, we're concerned about parking in the neighborhood. I'm just wondering if we're going ahead with this building and the construction with a 2-car garage, parking on the one side and possible parking in front of the home, and it's not ample enough, is there a possibility that we can issue parking passes per household so that people who live in the neighborhood, say on either side of this proposed property or upcoming properties, that if there's other cars that are parked there without these parking passes, that they can be removed?
Okay. Is there anything further, or are you?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm just
Thank you.
concerned about the parking.
Yeah, understood. I'll just make a general comment with respect to parking. Recognize that the provincial legislation that was introduced last year does represent a significant change to many of our neighborhoods in Richmond. The provincial regulations that were introduced in terms of the city's requirements of parking, they are higher than what the province has requested of all municipalities. Having said that, the panel has been advised that the 3 parking spaces proposed does comply with the city's bylaw. In terms of a resident permit parking pass program, we can refer that matter to our transportation staff for further review and analysis, but in terms of the panel, that is something that the panel is not able to implement itself. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Mark Reed. I live on Wellington Crescent. Having limited experience with the vocabulary related to understanding these drawings, I'm wondering if someone could just help me understand where the 4 meters to 1.5 is reflected here. So I mean, I hear the word side yard setback, but I don't know enough about what specifically that means and therefore how to understand the drawing.
Sure. What I'm going to ask actually is Alex is in City Hall. He will come down to the council chambers at the conclusion of the meeting and be able to advise you on exactly that information. What we are essentially being asked, the panel, is to allow for the building to be centered on the lot and to have setbacks that would be consistent with any recent home that was built in Burkeville and any future home that would be built on the majority of the lots on Anson Avenue.
Okay, if I heard you correctly there, are you talking about centering the principal home and that's why the variance is being sought? Or is it the infill building positioning and that's why the variance is being sought?
It's the principal building, the main home.
Okay. I'm wondering then, and I think this is a reasonable question, but the information card we all received in the mail was about a discussion around the infill building, not about the positioning of the principal home. So for me to be an informed citizen to contribute here, everyone sitting here is a neighbor. Some of us know each other, some of us don't. Getting that card saying one thing and then asking or realizing it's a different conversation today, that maybe feels a little bit frustrating as a neighbor to be able to provide you with adequate feedback. Having the question presented in advance accurately on the information card in the mail probably would have been effective.
Thank you for your comment.
Can I just say something about the parking issues in the area?
No, Rustico, do we have anyone else that wishes to address the panel?
Just a moment, Mr. Chair. I will just ask the members of the public. Yes, there's one more member of the public wanting to speak on this item, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Amanda Porcheron. I live on Handley, and I am a neighbor to this property directly across the back alley. Relatively new to Burkeville, only lived there for a year and a half. Part of the reason we moved there was because of this community feel. We have a 1,700 square foot home with 3 bedrooms. So to hear that something's going in with 8 bedrooms, I think that's going to change the feel. I don't really have much more to say than that. I think everything else that's been said about parking and drainage is all pretty valid. So, yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Amanda. If there are any other members of the public that wish to address the panel, please come forward. If not, I'll conclude that portion of the meeting. Rustico, is there anyone?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe there's no more members of the public wishing to comment on this application.
All right. I would like to thank all the members of the public that have come forward and given us our comments. We'll get into some of the comments provided during the panel deliberation and actions of the panel. Are there any is there any pieces of written correspondence on this application?
Nothing, Mr. Chair.
All right, that brings us to panel deliberations. maybe I'll kick it off before any additional comments from yourself, Lloyd and Milton. But I do have some items that I'd like the panel to consider as direction to staff should this application be approved. The first item being that the pedestrian pathways and visitor parking, or the surface parking stall, be comprised of unit pavers versus poured-in-place concrete. The second item is related to the garage, and I would like the panel to consider adding an additional legal agreement as a condition of this that would prohibit the conversion of the two-car garage into any form of habitable space. Milton, Lloyd, comments on the application and those two additions?
Well, I would agree with the two additions. And again, thank you to the residents for expressing your views. I know this is a bit challenging one, and it's something that the city is dealing with as well, with the rezoning that's basically being imposed by the province. So unfortunately, we're going to have some difficult decisions to make. But with the additions from Mr. Craig, I think I could support this application.
Yeah, I would say that I too support your two amendments, Mr. Chair, and I do agree with what I've heard you and the public say, that certainly parking can be an issue. However, the province has taken the number of units on these lots out of our hands, and that is one of the issues. But I do note that it did include the parking that was required as part of our bylaws. So I think I can support this.
All right. With that, I'll call for anyone willing to move the staff recommendation subject to the amendments.
Moved.
And seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Gurjot, I just encourage you to engage with your neighbors as you proceed with this development. It is important to make sure that you are informing your neighbors of your construction process and working with them to address any concerns that may come about. In terms of the members of public with us here today, I recognize that this is a significant change in what has traditionally been the form of development in Burkeville. And many of the concerns noted have been placed outside of the city's control due to the provincial legislation. So with that, we will move on to item number 2 on the agenda. Second coach house in the Burkeville area. So item number 2 is development permit 25-008-025. The applicant is again Dream Casa Developments. The property location is 2211 Anson Avenue. The recommendation is that a development permit be issued, which would permit the construction of a rear yard infill building at 2211 Anson Avenue on a site zone small scale multi-unit housing RSM-L. Gurjot, if you're presenting on this one.
Yep, sorry, just sharing my screen here. 1 second. For this one, we'll just go through site plan, landscape plan, and also the drawings of the second unit in the back. I also just wanted to make a quick note here. The homeowners actually for 2051 and 2211 Anson Avenue have been living in this area since 2005. So they're huge members of the community, and their goal here is not to affect any neighbors. Like I said in my first presentation, we'll also be putting like tenancy agreements where people will be only allowed 1 car we do have a total of 3 units. So we're going to try to make sure all our cars, all that stuff is completely super low, just how it is right now. My neighbors actually live at 2051 right now, and I'm just about to do the presentation for 2211 Anson Avenue. So their son is actually going to be keeping one house, 221 Anson Avenue, and we just presented 2051 Avenue, and Falguni and Sandeep, they're the parents. They're going to be living in that house where they're actually getting super close to retirement. So that's why they're putting up these suites just for retirement, so they can stop working. Obviously, they've been in Canada for over 25 years and working hard for the last 25 years here. And so here we're just going to go through 221 Anson Avenue. Here's a site plan one more time. Like I said, the porch, we made our entry porch to make sure that we're not blocking the laneway access, good visibility. We got heat pump and garbage bins, all that stuff in the back highlighted with the shared space between all the neighbors. We have fire path access on the left here. And we're going to be doing nice retaining either metal or wood fences. We're going to be talking to the building inspectors on site. And like I said, making the area look super nice. Let's go through landscape again. Landscape, we're just like 2051. We got some red cedars. We got some other species in the back, Japanese maple, and the concrete change, we're going to be changing this to pavement stones now, so we'll be doing that for both properties. And the laneway design is pretty identical. Yeah, super identical. So if any questions, you guys can just let me know and we'll fire at them. Most drawings are completely same. 2051, 2211. It's not much difference, to be honest with everyone here.
All right, you can stop sharing screen if you're done with your presentation. Josh, staff comments?
Just a couple of comments, if I may, Mr. Chair. So, as previously indicated, this property too is subject to the RSM zone, which was applied to the property in June of 2024 in accordance with the provincial regulations under Bill 44. The proposed rear yard infill development is consistent with the zoning bylaw. There is an aircraft noise covenant that will be required to be registered on title to ensure that aircraft noise mitigation measures are incorporated into the future building design. There are no variances associated with this project, and the principal dwelling is not subject to this development permit itself.
So Josh, just given the previous variance on the previous application and this application, could you please just comment on, again, the previous application required a variance because the lot width was 15.24 meters, therefore over 15 meters. This lot, as it's under 15 meters in width, the side yard setback requirement is 1.2 meters. In terms of the placement of the buildings on the lots, they're virtually similar. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that is correct. The placement is virtually the same. In this instance, the lot is 14.6 meters approximately in width, which is under the 15 meters, and so the required side yard setback on this property is 1.2 meters on either side.
All right, thank you. Milton, Lloyd, any questions on this application?
Mr. Chair, I just had one. It's very similar to the previous lot. This one is a little bit narrower, and I see that the parking spot for the pad outside of the garage is a little narrower, and it looks like there's an existing fence there and things like that. So is that it's not in metric, but it looks like it's around 2.7 meters. Is that enough space to open the doors to a car and get out and all that good stuff, or?
Alex, are you able to comment on the width of that parking pad and whether it meets the city's bylaw requirements for parking width?
Yes, I can speak to that. The parking stall on the uncovered parking stall at 2211 does meet the city standard for a small car parking stall, which meets the standards for zoning.
Thank you.
No questions from me.
Okay, I do have a few questions, and it relates to the similarities between this project and the previous project. The tree planting species are identical to the previous. I'd actually like to see that revised to provide some variety in species, subject to the panel's deliberation. So if you could keep that in mind. The other thing I'd ask the applicant to comment on is the color scheme, and the color scheme as it relates to the previous development specifically. So are we looking at similar exterior colors? Is there a difference in the exterior colors?
We're super open to work with however the city wants to do. Like I said, we've been working with them since July 2024, and this question hasn't really came up of. But not like the same colors and all that stuff. We sort of talked about like hardy panels, stone, shingles, and stuff. But colors, that anything that you guys have feedback for us, we'll 100% approach it that way. We're super open.
All right.
Yeah.
Rustico, any members of the public that wish to comment on this application?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Hi.
Please come forward.
Yes. Andy Baxter again for another question, please. As I drive through Vancouver, South Vancouver, Main Fraser, what have you, with all the laneway homes that are being built there, all of the laneway homes have single car garages. How is it that we are building a secondary building with a double car garage? I'm just wondering. And limiting the amount of livable space on the main floor?
Okay.
I've never seen a double car garage laneway home in Vancouver.
All right, we'll get you an answer to that. Is there anything else?
And the reason why I'm asking that is because I know that there's been other construction that has taken place in the neighborhood with a double car garage that has been built into a secondary livable space. So I'm concerned that it's a double garage and it will be converted into livable space. That's why I'm asking. Thank you.
Okay. Appreciate the question. Alex, if I could ask you to comment on the width of the garage and whether it is sufficient to accommodate 2 cars according to our zoning bylaw.
Yes, so the width of the garage is just under 20 feet, 19.8. Based on our review, it's certainly sufficient in size to accommodate 2 vehicle parking stalls.
All right. And then in response to the potential unauthorized conversion of space, similar to the previous application, one of the things that I'll be asking the panel to consider is registration of a legal agreement that would prohibit the conversion of that space. What such an agreement would do, just for members of the public's information, is it does provide additional authority should there be any unauthorized conversion of that garage into habitable space in the future, to not only seek remedies through zoning bylaw noncompliance, but also through legal means of contractual law. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the panel?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Hi. First, I just wanted to start by saying that I think we're all here just because we're concerned about the ongoing, just similar properties and that sort of thing. This has nothing to do with Falguni or her family. She's a wonderful neighbor and community member. It's just more like, I know she'll do a very good job in terms of who rents and that sort of thing. It's just when maybe she's no longer living there or when other ones are built. So I want to start with that. I have a question regarding what the entrance that, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this question, but the entrance that a person would use for the main house if they're parking their cars in the back, because I know if you're doing it all the time, you need something, people are going to pick the path of least resistance. So just checking to see if there's a door on both sides that would make sense rather than going all out into the alley and all the way around, and whether it's actually set up to be an entrance in the back. Just curious.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
That's everything, thanks.
Okay, thank you for the question. Yes, there is a direct pedestrian door from the back of the garage and a pathway between the garage and the principal dwelling.
Hi, me again. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify, all residences in Burkeville have been rezoned for the multifamily? Is that correct?
We'll get you an answer to all your questions if you could give them to me now. So yes, we'll clarify that.
Okay, yeah, I'm curious about whether this is going to happen again, because that's obviously what the neighbors are anticipating. I'm also happy that you've already considered the double garage and it being converted into an additional revenue suite, which we've seen a number of times in our area. With the new zoning and the provincial push to increase the number of bedrooms and the number of multifamily uses in neighborhoods, has there been adequate thought put to increase transit? We are relatively close to SkyTrain, but not that close, and it's gotten better as far as what the walk looks like. But Burkeville, from what I understand, I've been there for over a decade, but we used to have bus service. And as we increase density and as we make it increasingly difficult for people to actually park a car, if you're familiar with our community, we're interesting because we are isolated. You must have a car or you must have a really good bike to go and get groceries. So when people move in, and I understand our neighbors are going to try to be responsible about the number of cars, 0.5 per unit or whatever they're allowed, they will try to be responsible, but it's not possible and it's also not reasonable. The car is required. So I would like some thought trickle down to improving our transit. I think that's a minimum. So if you're going to increase people, which it sounds like it was almost a moot point today, it sounds like it's happening. So I would like to see increased transit, or at least a conversation about it.
All right, thank you.
What's that?
So Josh, if you could just comment in terms of the small-scale multi-unit housing regulations imposed by the province, does that apply to the entire Burkeville neighborhood?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. It does apply to all properties within the Burkeville neighborhood.
All right. And just in response to the transit question, transit services are outside of the local government's purview. That is the mandate of TransLink. I would say, however, that our city council was very critical of how the province's housing legislation that was enacted last year was imposed upon municipalities. And there was a number of efforts made by Richmond City Council to advocate for changes to that regulation, as well as for additional transit service, additional funding for amenities, and all of those things. Unfortunately, the matter of transit is outside of the city's control. The city does, through its elected bodies, continue to advocate for improved services, but it is not something that the city itself controls. Is there anybody else that would wish to address the panel?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
My name is Anna Mehta. I am living on Wellington, where I've been the last 3 decades plus. And I just wanted to comment and let the council know that Burkeville is pretty unique in that we are smack between the airport and the BCIT, which gives us a lot of additional parking. It's not unusual for some people to park their car in front of my house and leave for a couple of weeks, and I have no idea who they are and why they're in my way. And the same thing happens with the students at BCIT that are being charged exorbitant rates to park. But again, because the transit is difficult, not happening very often, they have nowhere else to park than in Burkeville. So it's something that is still very much on our minds. Thank you.
I appreciate your comment. Thank you very much.
And I'm Diana, also a longtime resident of Burkeville. So further to this issue with regards to transportation, what about ride sharing? It seems like ride sharing, EVOs and whatever are not permitted in our area. Is that something that the city would be able to address at some point and allow for ride sharing or shared cars in the neighborhood?
Thank you. Any additional questions?
No.
In terms of ride sharing, it is something that is outside the purview of the panel. Having said that, I would say that the city's overall transportation goals do support the provision and increasing the availability of rideshare throughout the city. Most of those service providers are private entities. There are no restrictions per se on where they can go. The city is very supportive. We will continue to advocate for all sorts of transportation initiatives. Christico, is there anyone else who wishes to address the panel?
I believe there's no one else, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you to those members that spoke. Do we have any written correspondence?
We have no correspondence for this item, Mr. Chair.
All right. That leads us to panel deliberation. I'm going to start it off again with some directions for the panel to consider. First would be that the applicant work with staff to ensure that the pedestrian pathways on the site, as well as the surface parking stall, are constructed of unit pavers versus poured-in-place concrete. That revisions to the landscape plan be made to provide variety of species versus the previous application that was considered. And thirdly, that they work with staff to come up with a color scheme that differentiates or provides some differentiation between this project and the previous project. And then the fourth item would be an additional legal agreement to be secured as a condition of the development permit, which would prohibit the conversion of the double car garage into any form of habitable space. Milton, Lloyd, any further comments, and or do you support those directions to staff and changes to the considerations?
Mr. Chair, yeah, I support those directions. And, once again, we hear concerns about parking, but the number of units, has been, the province has forced this upon us. In fact, this is a lower number of units than is probably allowed. And the parking is as per our bylaw, which is higher than what the province has recommended to us.
I support the additions and just similar comments to the rest of the panel.
All right. With that, I'll call a question on the staff recommendation. Is anyone willing to move the recommendation? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, just before we get to the next item on our agenda, Alex, if you could please make your way to the council chambers and try and help some of our members of the public understand any questions or answer any questions they may have regarding the plans and next steps in terms of these applications.
Certainly.
Thank you. Josh, any new business?
There's one item of new business, Mr. Chair. The meeting on May 14th, we do not have any items scheduled for that agenda. It would be in order for the panel to make a motion to cancel that meeting.
All right. May I have such a motion?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of canceling the May 14th meeting, thank you very much. For any members of the public that may still be with us, I appreciate you attending the meeting and voicing your concerns today. We will do what we can, given the provincial legislation that's been imposed, to make these developments work as much as possible. And in terms of next steps, they will proceed to City Council for their consideration once the conditions have been addressed, which is provision of a number of legal agreements and some securities. So thank you very much. May I have a motion to adjourn? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.